Help me reach 7,000 subscribers. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps make the content better. She started hiding her phone under kitchen towels. Not because it rang too loud or the battery got hot, because my steps in the hallway made her thumb twitch and the screen vanish. I walked in with grocery bags, set 2 ribeyes on the counter, and watched her slide the phone face down and smile like a stewardess in turbulence. "Hey babe, you're early," she said, tucking hair behind her ear. "Traffic was kind," I answered, rinsing my hands. "Who were you texting? I thought your book club meets on Tuesdays." "It was Lauren. She's late on the planning thing. You know how she is." "Sure," I said, and turned the faucet off with the back of my wrist. "We still doing dinner with Mike and Jenna Friday?" She hesitated a beat. "Maybe. We'll see." "We'll see." 2 weeks ago, she nagged me to lock Friday for that same plan. Now the phone's under a towel, and we'll see. I plated the steaks, sprinkled salt, and kept my face neutral. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have bought cheaper meat and saved the bourbon for better company. We ate in a comfortable silence that wasn't comfortable. She asked about the site. My crew was replacing ductwork in a mid-rise downtown, and I gave her short answers. My words used to land. Lately they slid off her like rain on a waxed hood. "You always look tired," she offered, stabbing a carrot. "You should take a day." "I take days when things are finished." "You're too serious." "Pays the mortgage." She laughed in a way that said the mortgage bored her. That night, lying in bed, she rolled away with the phone under her pillow. I reached to turn off the lamp and found my hand paused midair. Not from jealousy. Jealousy is noise, but from a clean, hard signal in my chest. Something was sideways. I don't chase signals forever. I traced the line and flipped the switch. In the morning, I made coffee and didn't mention the phone. I set her cup on the island, placed my key ring beside it, and slid my ring off the chain I kept for work. It would go on later, after sheet metal, like always. She watched that little ritual like she was clocking a pattern she planned to disrupt. "What are you doing tonight?" I asked. "Pilates with Lauren. Might grab a bite." "Don't wait up." "Noted." I took my keys. "I won't." She blinked at the tone. It wasn't anger. It was a memo. I stepped into a week built on small errors. Her schedule shifted in slippery ways. Pilates stretched an hour, then 2. Girls' night got quiet and evasive. She showered before she left and after she came home. When I walked through the door late from the site, I started hearing a busy signal in the kitchen, the kind where you know there's another call on the line. Friday, she canceled dinner with Mike and Jenna with half a sentence and a shrug. "He said they're swamped. Maybe next week." She said it while standing at the sink, phone face down on the windowsill. I clicked my tongue. "Funny," I said, wiping the counter. "Mike texted me a picture of a rib rub and told me to bring beer. That was 2 hours ago." She looked at the phone, then back at me. "Maybe he forgot. Whatever. I don't feel like going." "Copy," I told her, dropping the towel. "Then I'll swing by and say hi." Her eyes sharpened. "Without me." "Dinner was with friends. If you're tired, rest. Don't be weird." "I'm not. I'm going." I showered. She hovered in the doorway, arms crossed, feigning casual. "Why are you so possessive lately?" "Possessive is a lazy word," I said, toweling off. "I'm direct. There's a difference. You've been checking on me." I asked about dinner plans I made. "That's not surveillance. That's manners." "Whatever," she said and left. At Mike's, Jenna opened with a smile that drooped when she saw I was alone. "Where's Emma?" "Staying in," I said. "Again." She stepped aside. Mike was by the grill, phone in hand. He locked it, tossed me a beer without eye contact, and clapped my shoulder lightly, like a man greeting a client, not a friend. That was new. We made small talk about the team, the coach, his new project selling high-end cabinets. His eyes kept sliding to his phone. It buzzed on the patio table. He flipped it over, screen face down, as if hiding the clock. "You good?" I asked. "Yeah, man. Just crazy week." "Jenna said you canceled dinner." "Oh," he forced a laugh. "Yeah, Jenna's schedule. You know how it is." "Right," I said, and took a sip. We ate. Jenna noticed my silence. "You two okay?" "We're fine," I said, polite. Mike changed the subject like he had been waiting to. On my way out, Mike walked me to the driveway. "Don't take it personally," he said, scratching his cheek, avoiding my eyes. "Sometimes Emma needs space." "That word again," I replied. "Space." From what? He opened his mouth, closed it, and looked toward the house. Anyway, say hi to her. Sure, I said. I will. Driving home, I didn't stew. I treat problems like duct leaks. You don't curse the air. You find the gap and seal it. At the house, I moved my toolbox from the garage to the mudroom. Plenty of room there, bright, organized mine. I pulled a spare phone from the drawer, a simple one I used for subcontractors. I laid it beside the toolboxes and labeled a folder vendors. It wasn't for her. It was for me, to route life through lines I controlled. Then I opened a spreadsheet and separated shared expenses from my own. Autodraft for her yoga studio disappeared. The streaming services attached to my card went dormant. I scheduled a standing Wednesday dinner with my foreman Luis and our plumber Carl at the diner near the site. If she asked, I'd tell her. If she didn't, she'd learn by absence. Saturday morning, she acted like we were in a sitcom. Pancakes, loud music, kissing my shoulder while I flipped bacon. You were quiet last night, she said. I was thinking. About what? Schedules. Boundaries. How to get more sleep. She laughed it off and set a plate. When I reached for maple syrup, her phone buzzed against the cutting board. She snatched it reflexively. The screen flashed a name she didn't expect me to see. The first letters looked like me. Spam. I asked, topping off coffee. She slid the phone into her jeans. Probably. Want to go for a hike later? No. I'm reorganizing the garage. She pouted lightly. You love hiking. I did, I said. Lately I like order. She rested her chin in her hand. You're distant. You're observant, I returned. I like that. After breakfast, she came to the garage doorway, barefoot, fake messy bun, holding iced tea like we were in a commercial. I've been prickly, she offered. Work's been weird. I should have told you. That would have been helpful. I'm telling you now. She stepped closer. I miss us. Let's do movie night tonight. My pick, then yours. First softening. The small olive branch after my quiet budget split and schedule changes. I accepted it the way I accept an umbrella. Useful if there's weather, not a treaty. Movie night works, I said. I'm on the early shift Monday. Lights out by 10. Of course. Her face brightened, and she pressed a kiss to my jaw in a way she hadn't for a while. The scent was new. Not terrible. New. We watched a comedy. She curled under my arm like college days and made small sighs, touching my chest when a joke landed. She laughed too hard. Her eyes kept flicking to the blank TV black when it went quiet between scenes, checking herself. At 10, I clicked the remote. Already? She teased. Early shift, I reminded and stood. In bed, she rolled toward me. Not the usual prelude, something sweeter, more effortful. Generous. I held her hand and kissed her forehead. Rain check, I said. I meant lights out. You're serious, she said, half laughing. I usually am. She didn't push. She turned, phone still under her pillow. Monday, we had a long day at the site with a failed inspection I had to fix by end of week. I told Emma I'd be late Tuesday and Wednesday. She smiled too fast. Oh, okay. Anything you need from me those nights? I asked, putting my steel toes near the door. No. I'll be at Lawrence. We're planning a trip. What kind of trip? Girls. We might go to Vegas. Just a week. Son, shows a break. She said break, like we were running sprints together and she needed water. I looked at her, really looked. Fresh manicure, new jeans, pushed to girls, and the word, might, pulling double duty. We're adults. Adults don't guess. Adults verify. I'm not against you traveling, I said. There are a few terms. Her brows rose. Terms. I don't do uncertainty. If you're going, give me the exact dates today. Share the flight info. While you're gone, we pause shared accounts. I'll handle the mortgage. Everything else goes on hold. When you're back, we talk schedules again. If that's too heavy, don't go. Her face tried on 3 expressions in 2 seconds. You don't trust me. I don't like vague, I replied. Those are the terms. That's controlling. No, that's order. Choose. She crossed her arms, then softened her voice. You're right. I can send you the info tonight. I'm sorry I sprung it. There it was, seconds softening on the horizon. But we weren't there yet. Not until after my next move. Tuesday night, I called a number a buddy at the firehouse had slipped me 2 years earlier for a different mess that never materialized. Name's Ray. The voice said, low bored. What's the work? Discretion, I said. My wife's planning a trip. I need to know what the trip actually is. Dates. Next week. Says Vegas. Payment. Upfront by wire. Daily rate plus travel. You send hourly updates. Photos where possible. Got it. He paused. You sure you want this? I'm sure I want clarity. Ray didn't care why. He cared about the clock. I wired the retainer. He sent me a packing list. To send, not for me. 2 hours later, he confirmed her flight and seat. She'd booked it 3 days earlier. Funny how Might had a boarding pass. That night, she climbed onto my lap while I was sorting site reports at the dining table. I hate how distant we've been, she murmured. I don't want this trip to feel like I'm running from you. You'll do what you do, I answered, setting the reports aside. When you're back, we'll be honest. I am honest. She kissed me like she wanted to erase a mark she thought she'd left. Then you won't mind the terms. Of course not. Her eyes were bright and watery, the kind of shine people think passes for sincerity. She made dinner, poured wine without asking, played old songs we used to put on when our couch still had the new couch smell. She was friendly, warm, almost tender. Illusion of change, round one complete. I appreciated the effort and slept on my side of the bed, rested, ready. At work Wednesday, Luis looked at me over the duct schematic. You got that face. What face? The one you get when a valve is stuck and you already know the fix. I grinned. Something like that. You want to grab the diner? Already booked us, I said. You and Carl. 8. He whistled. Planning man. I'm learning. Between schedules, Ray texted me a photo of her boarding pass. He never used words he didn't need. Gate C11. Bright carry-on. Alone. Then at takeoff. Well up. I forwarded nothing. I kept receipts. At lunch I called a family attorney I'd met on a job. I need to understand my options, I said. Is there a precipitating event? He asked. Not one I can prove yet, but one I can soon. We can file preliminaries quietly, he said. Gather documentation. When you're ready, we move. Do it. He sent me a secure folder. I opened a new file in my office labeled Assets. It wasn't an act of rage. It was housekeeping. She came home before the trip bright and performative. She made my favorite dinner, laughed at my dry jokes, asked about Luis and Carl by name like she'd been thinking about them all day. She put her phone on the counter, face up, and left it there like a staging prop. The notifications were muted. The screen barely winked. You're sweet this week, I observed, loading the dishwasher. I've been off, she said, brushing my shoulder. I want us back. Us is 2 people. Takes 2. I know. She rested her forehead briefly on my back and held it there. I booked the flight. I sent you everything. You did, I said, and closed the dishwasher with my hip. Thanks. Are you upset I'm going? I'm evaluating, I said. That's different. She watched me, trying to read a panel with the labels removed. I didn't give her a manual. When the day came, I drove her to the airport. She wore travel clothes that looked like they weren't for travel. I placed her suitcase on the curb, handed her a coffee, and hugged her like a husband hugging his wife for a normal week-long girls' trip. She did the extra squeeze that says, "We're good, right?" I gave it back, because politeness costs nothing when the ledger is already open. You'll text when you land, I told her. Of course. Have fun. Miss me, she said, a playful command she hadn't used in months. Always, I said, neutral. I watched her walk inside and get swallowed by the sliding doors. Then I turned the truck, adjusted the mirror, and headed to the site. An hour into a roof unit fight, my phone buzzed. Ray. She met a man at B18. Baseball cap, gray hoodie. Embrace was for familiarity, not hello. Boarding together. Seated separate rows. Land, regroup. Another buzz, a photo. Her smile was different than the one she gave me at the curb. Not bigger. Looser. She tilted her head toward him in a way I'd seen at our kitchen sink when she wanted me to try a sauce. Luis glanced at me. Good. Better by the minute, I said, and reattached a panel. Every hour, Ray's updates came. Taxi to Hotel X, separate check-in. He pays cash. She uses her card. Elevator together. Then, poolside lunch. Heads close. Not discreet. Photos, too clear to misread, arrived with timestamps. Not a drama. A sequence. That night she texted me a photo of a show poster and 3 hearts. I sent a thumbs up. Not sarcastic. Efficient. Day 2. Ray. They're in a cab to off-strip restaurant. Separate tables first. Joined by dessert. Depart together. Photo. His hand low on her back, her head tipped. The noise in my chest wasn't noise anymore. It was a straight tone. I sent the photos and logs to the attorney's folder with a label that didn't editorialize. Travel_week underscore timestamps. He replied with one word. Received. We moved the plan forward. He prepared documents for me to sign when I told him to. Quiet, clean, exact. On day 3, my neighbor from 2 doors down, Mrs. Carter, waved me over as I was hauling an old cabinet to the curb. Emma's on a trip? She asked, adjusting her visor. Girls' trip. Those girls do a lot of trips. She peered at me over her sunglasses. You holding up? I'm working and sleeping, I answered. That covers most needs. You're steady, she said with approval. Steady wins. Always has, I said, and carried the cabinet to the street. Ray's update. He's at the spa desk with her. They book a couples thing. She signs his name as M. He attached a photo of the page corner. I read the first letter of my buddy's name, and my mouth tasted metallic. Am I surprised? No. Did I like it? Also no. But liking is for desserts. I deal in facts. That night, I met Luis and Carl at the diner. We ordered burgers we each always pretend we won't order. Carl, who speaks in short sentences like a man who hates wasted air, lifted his chin at my phone. Bad. Useful. You gonna yell? Luis asked. No. I'm going to build a plan and walk through it. Man work, Carl said, satisfied, and dunked a fry. On day 4, she sent me a selfie with Lauren by a fountain. Lauren wasn't in Vegas. She'd posted a photo from her backyard with her kids. I knew because Jenna group chatted a backyard trampoline accident with a "can you believe it?" message. Emma's photo had a reflection in her sunglasses. 2 people, not 1. Neither was Lauren. I texted back. Hope you're getting sun. That's what a husband who believes the lie would say. I allowed her the comfort of her script while I wrote mine. Day 5. Ray. He leaves for flight early. She stays. Not together leaving. Then, she's at the airport now. Alone. He attached a photo at the gate. Emma in leggings, hair in a knot, looking down at her phone with a smile reserved for messages that reward risk. I sent the last batch to the folder. The attorney responded, signable tomorrow. I told him, prepare to serve when I text now. On the morning of her return, I moved through the house like a tech team before a major inspection. I set her suitcase space by the bedroom door. I gathered her things she used daily into a clean pile. I left the guest room empty, bed made, towels fresh. Not for her, just for order. Then I moved to my office, checked the printer, and lined up documents. Finally, I drove to the airport and parked in short term. I didn't hide. I stood by arrivals with a coffee and my phone like any husband waiting for his wife. They came down the escalator separately. She looked like vacation. He looked like he'd won something on a technicality. They saw each other, avoided eye contact for 2 seconds, then miscalculated and walked straight into a hug that had history in it. The kind that says, finally, and again at the same time. My friend Mike. His cap low, his head tilted our way out of habit. When her eyes found me over his shoulder, her expression turned into a math problem with too many variables. She stepped back. He froze. His mouth opened. He didn't call my name. He didn't need to. I knew it. I lifted my coffee by way of a toast and gave a nod that could be read as, not here. I turned and walked to the exit. Neither of us needed a scene. Scenes are for people who lost the plot. She took a separate cab, because of course she did. I drove home slow, like a man who doesn't need to rush the obvious. When she came through the door, she was bright and sugared. I missed you, she announced, dropping her bag. She stepped into me for a hug with heat that wasn't about me. I gave her the hug, because I'm polite. Then she leaned back with a smirk and said the line people say when they've decided that adulthood is optional. What was in Vegas stays in Vegas, she teased, eyebrows up. Uh-huh, I said, like a man who hears a joke that explains the teller. You mean what was with Mike? Don't worry. My attorney already knows. Her face did a trick I've only seen once before, when a pipe bursts behind a wall and the paint blisters fast. Panic doesn't look like a scream. It looks like silence trying to act like a laugh. She tried that. You're being dramatic, she said weakly. What are you talking about? I took my phone from my pocket and scrolled through the clean timeline Ray had sent. I tapped photos. The embrace at the gate, the hotel check-in, the poolside closeness, the spa desk with the letter M. I held it out to her and watched the film of the week unspool in her eyes. This is nothing, she tried. He's a friend. We were just together. I finished for her. Without telling me. In the city you chose because it sells amnesia. With a man I brought into our house for the last 8 years. That's not nothing. That's everything. She shook her head too fast. You've been distant. You worked late. I needed terms. I cut in calm. We talked about those. You accepted them. You chose something else. She reached for my wrist. I didn't pull away. I set my hand on the island instead. Please, she whispered. It was stupid. It won't happen again. I made a mistake. We're strong. We can fix it. I studied her like I study an invoice, line by line. You lied because it paid in attention. You hid because it felt exciting. You tested because you thought I'd chase. I don't chase. I correct. She stepped back, tears rising. You're going to leave me over a week? I smiled a little. No. I'm leaving you because the respect went on sale and you gave my price to someone else. That's a cruel way to put it. It's a true way. She tried to pivot to pity. Where would I go? To the man you hugged at arrivals, I said. He's familiar. He'll do. I don't want him, she pleaded. I want you. You wanted everything, I said, and walked to the bedroom. She followed, voice climbing with each step. Let's talk. Tonight. Tomorrow. Therapy. Anything. I opened the closet, pulled her suitcase from the shelf, and set it on the bed. Pack what you need for 2 weeks, I told her. You can send for the rest later. You can't do this, she snapped, temper finally finding the door. It's our house. It was our house, I corrected. It's mine. Title's in my name. You know why? You liked it until now. She looked around like the furniture would help. I messed up. You've never messed up. I've made errors. I've never called them vacations. Please. I won't yell, I told her. I won't throw things. I won't make this worse. I'm going to be clear. You broke the frame. We don't glue frames. We replace them. I walked back to the hall and opened the guest room door. This room's open until noon tomorrow, I said. If you need the night. After that, you're out. She sagged against the door frame. I can't believe you're serious. You spent a week betting I wasn't. She trailed me to my office, where the printer waited with a quiet confidence I respected. I lifted the top page and tapped the signature line. Here's the agreement for the split. I kept it fair. I'm not after blood. I'm after distance. You filed already, she breathed. I prepared, I corrected. I file when I text one word, now. This is cruel. Cruel would be spelling out all the details I know. I won't. I'm not interested in humiliating you. I'm interested in living in a house where the truth doesn't hide under towels. She cried. Not pretty, not theatrical. Real, but late. Give me another chance, she begged. I'll block him. I'll change everything. I'll quit whatever you want. You can change, I said. With Mike. With yourself. With whoever lives in your next chapter. I'm not your rehab. Her hands shook. You don't love me. I loved a version that existed when respect did, I told her. That person moved out first. She tried one last tactic. Talk to Mike. He'll tell you nothing happened. He can save it for his mirror, I said. Pack. Jenna will hate me, she blurted, reaching for any lever. Jenna's not my problem, I said. Her voice went small. What will people say? That you gambled and lost, I answered. And that I paid my tabs. She spent the night in the guest room, moving around the house in soft footsteps like a teenager past curfew. I slept in my bed. The door was open. There was nothing in the air but the smell of detergent and end of summer. Morning came. I made coffee. She came into the kitchen, red-eyed, holding the agreement like a dead bird. Can we talk, please? You talked. It was in hugs and quiet purchases in a city you thought had no memory. I pointed at the suitcase. Deadline. You'd really throw me out, she said, a dare and a plea. I'm not throwing you, I said. I'm removing myself from a game I didn't sign up to play. She put the paper down, stared at it, then scribbled her name in the places marked with flags. I'll sign this, she said, voice flat. But you'll regret it. Doubtful, I answered. Integrity ages well. She packed. I didn't help. That's not cruelty. That's clean edges. She paused at the doorway with her bag, eyes on me, searching for a softness I didn't know. Can I come back if I figure it out? She asked. No. That's it. That's it. I opened the front door and stood aside. Take care of yourself. She held my gaze a beat longer, then walked past, suitcase rolling over the threshold like a period. Outside, she hesitated by the porch. What do I tell people? She tried again. Tell them the truth, I said. Or tell them a story. Either way, I won't be in it. Say something, she whispered, voice cracking for the first time. I did. Good luck with your friend. Her spine stiffened. She wheeled the bag to the curb and called a ride. When the car pulled away, I texted the attorney one word, now. He replied with a simple on it. Mike tried to call that afternoon. I watched his name light up my screen like a warning label. I let it ring out, then texted him, don't come by. We're done. He replied with a paragraph I didn't read. I blocked his number. Jenna texted 2 hours later. What happened? I called her. I can't get into it, I said, and I didn't. Take care of yourself. She started to cry. I hung up. I'm not a therapist. I'm a man with a life to rebuild, and I prefer wrenches to weeping. The next days were boring on purpose. Work, gym, laundry. I cleared out the bedroom like a hotel after a guest checks out. Fresh sheets, open windows, neutral calm. I removed our couple photos and put them in a box, not the trash. History deserves a box. I took the ring off the chain I only wore at work and dropped it in the same box. I labeled it with a date and slid it to the back of the closet. Luis noticed the lightness around me and nodded once. Approval without a parade. Steady, he said. Steady, I agreed. 2 weeks later, I met a friend of Carl's at a barbecue. A woman named Brooke who worked in HR and asked direct questions like she was allergic to fluff. She didn't ask for a recap. She asked what time I woke up and whether I preferred the ocean or the mountains. I told her I like mornings and mountains that don't apologize for being tall. She laughed in a way that felt like it was for her, not to get points with me. We swapped numbers. I didn't promise anything. I moved into a smaller place across town with a garage big enough for a workbench and a driveway that fit my truck. The house had clean lines and a kitchen that made sense. I bought a couch that was comfortable enough without being a trap, a coffee table that didn't wobble, and plants I remembered to water because they were right there, not hidden behind a phone under a towel. Weeks turned into a quiet rhythm. Work expanded. Luis and I picked up a contract with a school district and brought on 2 additional guys. Money stayed simple because I kept it that way. On Saturdays, I rode out to the hills and climbed trails, then swung by the range with Carl, who says 2 sentences per hour and spends the rest on aim. On Sundays, I saw Brooke. Not every Sunday. Enough. I heard through the small-town pipeline that Emma moved in with a friend, not the friend with a capital M, because that friend's life crashed under pressure. Consequences are like winter. They show up eventually. I didn't gloat. I didn't post. I paid my bills, trimmed the hedges, and learned how to make a decent omelet for one. If you're expecting a big speech or a dramatic doorstep scene where she begs and I soften, you'll be disappointed. She texted once, a month after she left. I'm sorry. I was lost. I stared at the words, then deleted them without reading twice. If a pipeline leaks, you don't put the same cracked joint back into the system and hope the water forgets. Brooke met my crew and didn't try to charm anyone. She asked Carl about his daughter's college applications and remembered Luis's kids' soccer schedule. She smiled at Mrs. Carter when we saw her on the street and offered to carry groceries to her door. It all felt like someone who likes being exactly where she is, not someone scanning the horizon for a better table. I didn't tell Brooke the whole story. She'll get it in doses, if she earns them and if I feel like talking. I'm not performing. I'm living. Sometimes people ask if I miss Emma. Missing is the wrong frame. I miss how we cooked together the first year. I miss Saturdays with the windows open and music low. I don't miss a life where I have to solve puzzles I didn't make. If you want advice, here it is. Don't argue on the level of feelings when the facts are already enough. Don't compete with a mirage. Don't chase explanations. If someone chooses fog, let them own the weather. Take your time. Separate your accounts. Build. When the moment comes, make your move in daylight and refuse the performance. My last words to her on the porch weren't cruel. They were simple. That's how I like my life now. Simple. Worth my time. She wanted attention. I wanted respect. Only one of us got what we came for.